Hi, thanks for watching. Okay, so in this video, I want to talk again about the Palestine conflict right now with Israel and Hamas. Basically, I really disagree. I'm getting frustrated because when I hear people like Briahna Joy Gray and Krystal Ball, sort of with their typical ideological angle on this conflict, where they see everything from the point of view of the human rights angle, the human rights, the international human rights. Okay, I know it's so tempting. Okay, I'm tempted to see this as a human rights issue. Okay, but we're forgetting, and I'm sorry, this is reality. Okay, this is not really a human rights crisis. Okay, what this is a warfare. This is a warfare between the leadership of Palestine and the leadership of Israel. That doesn't mean there aren't innocent Palestinians who don't want any part of this war, but as a people, through their leadership, Palestine is in a warfare position with Israel. Okay, this is warfare. All right, and I don't think it's very productive to try to interpose the human rights angle too much in a warfare situation, because if you try to interfere with war as it's working itself out, in the end, the war will never end until it ends. Okay, wars do not end by interference in human rights, you know, human rights issues. Wars have a life of their own. Okay, I'm going to be the first to say it. In the United States, okay, I do not think that the Civil War in the United States really ended. Okay, because it's not enough just to sign the paperwork and just to sign, let's say, the armistice or whatever, the surrender documents, whatever. The war ends when everybody feels that the war is over. Okay, and it may involve having a winner or a loser. It may just involve everybody having a settlement. Okay, but fussing over all the human rights stuff. I mean, I'm sorry. And what about the human rights in Ukraine? You don't think children and old people and vulnerable people have died in Ukraine as well? I mean, Palestine is not the only place where children and women are the casualties of war. War is disgusting. War is terrible. But war will not end until it ends. Okay. And I'm here to say, what can we learn from the American Civil War? Okay. We signed, the South signed the surrender documents. That's a formality. But did the people of the South fully accept that war was over? Okay. Well, we know that that's not true. The Civil War, in a sense, lives on today. There's a lot of cultural division between the urban and the city, the North and the South, and some of that still has sort of like Civil War flavor to it. And I think the Republicans really have capitalized on that. And so we haven't really left that behind. That's not really over. Some wars end, some wars last for a long time. So I think better for us is, and now it's better for us to just look at the situation, accept the fact that Israel is at war with Palestine, period. Okay, yeah, there are a few Palestinians who don't want any part of it. I'm sure there are a few Germans in Nazi Germany who didn't want any part of the war, but Germany was at war with, whatever, and Palestine is at war with Israel, and Israel is at war with Palestine. That's what's happening. Okay, you can't argue them out of it. You can't litigate out of this. Okay, so how does a war actually end? Okay, a war ends not just when someone loses. Okay, Palestine's been losing this war for decades. Okay, it's not enough just to be losing. That doesn't end the war. The war ends when someone is beaten. When you're beaten or you surrender. Okay, and surrendering sucks. Okay, but you decide you want to end the war. Now, we surrendered, the South surrendered formally the Civil War, right? The leadership of the South signed the surrender documents, but did the entire South really accept it? I think in some ways maybe not. And so the war didn't really completely end. And so when I say surrender, it can't just be a formality of the leadership just to say they're signing the papers, because that's not a real surrender. A surrender is when the people themselves, not just the leadership, when they accept that this is over. Okay, we're done. We're moving to a new time now. We're gonna leave this behind. And so it's not going to be enough, even if this war ends in a surrender. It's not going to be enough for just some leaders in Hamas to sign a few documents and whatever. The people of Palestine, from the top to the bottom, are going to have to come to a point where they don't want any more of this. Okay, even if they have to walk away, let's say, eating crap. And I mean, like, say, losing their vision, because I think Palestinians have this long-term vision that someday they may have a claim to lands, some expectations, whatever. They may have to let go of all their expectations and maybe come up with much less than what they want. But the idea is that at some point you don't want the war anymore. Okay. And in my opinion, I think the Palestinians are not ready for that yet. So in a sense, we can say this war has not ended. Okay. And, there's two ways it can end. They can either get beaten, just beaten, to the point where it's just a joke. But even then, until until it's fully accepted that this war is over, then, it's just not over, And so the human rights, you can bicker the human rights, but the bottom line is that people will break rules. That's what people do. When people are at war, you can have war law, the law of warfare or whatever, the rules of war, but people will, as long as they're at war, there's always a risk that the rules will get broken. Okay. And you're not going to save anybody by just flashing a bunch of arguments about human rights and litigating this that's just mosquitoes. That's not really attacking the problem. The problem will be over when the war is over. Okay. And so there's just two ways out. Palestine can just get beaten just beyond, whatever. Or somehow these people can come to the table and the people can decide they don't want this anymore, but they'd have to accept maybe a settlement that maybe is not that great. That's how litigations end. That's how lawsuits end, where parties accept an outcome, they accept a settlement that maybe isn't what they want, but they just want it to be over, and we're just not there yet. So, with all respect, I like Krystal and I like Briahna Joy Gray. They look like really nice people, but it's just naive to be bickering over all this human rights stuff. We're in the middle of a war, and until the war is over, then everybody, all kinds of young people and old people are going to be at risk of being injured, Israelis and Palestinians, and so, it just so happens that Palestinians have been losing this war, but they just won't accept an end to it, and that means that they still want to fight, I guess, if you want to say that, and so at some point we need to kind of let go of how outraged we are at maybe a bad outcome for the Palestinians. They may end up with a pretty bad outcome, but at least once the war is done, then you can move to a constructive phase where you can start to rebuild lives without the dynamic of warfare. And once the warfare is gone, okay, then slowly maybe relations can be restored with the present enemy, so that maybe in the future, you can sort of evolve into a better situation, But maybe for now, maybe to end this war, maybe the Palestinians have to accept maybe a set of land that maybe isn't as much as the land that they want. Okay, and that's really all it's about. It's about land, So they may end up getting much less land than what they wanted, but the idea is, okay, we're going to end this. We're going to take much less land, but we're going to make the most of it. And looking towards the future, where we're not going to try to fight for more land, but we will be committed maybe to just negotiating and getting along with Israel to possibly extend our lands, but purely through just reasoning and peace. But you got to end the war first, because I guarantee you, the more they fight, the more they're going to lose. And I think this is the bad part about human rights. You get so into the human rights, they don't see the practical, logistical disadvantage of all this bickering and persisting with this stupid war that Palestinians will never win. So every time they go into a new chapter of this war, they're going to lose more, and they're going to end up worse. If they had never had this incident, right? And if they had just decided to propose major peace plan, okay, they could still have all of Gaza. Now it looks like Gaza is going to get chopped down, okay, and now they're going to end up with less. So I'm sorry, all the smarty pants people who think they know all about human rights, who think of all about defending Palestinian resistance, you've just all this mosquito talk, whatever, the rights. Well, now Palestine has less, okay. So they better end this thing, because it's just going to get worse and worse. So anyway, I just want to say that wars are not over till they're over. Okay. And you have two choices. You can either get beaten terribly, okay, or at some point you can say, we don't want it anymore. But the whole population, basically, the Palestinian population, has to be convinced that, as people, not just their leadership, not just as a formality, but the people have to say, we want this done. But until then, the war's not over. Okay. And wars don't end until they're over. Okay. And hopefully we can learn from the American Civil War. That war didn't really end because it was just signed. The surrender documents were signed as a formality by leadership, but I don't know that the people really fully accepted, all the way, And so, if it's going to end, it has to be more than just signing documents. It has to be more than just leadership. It has to be all the way down to the people. They want this done. And until then, human rights, that's just mosquito talk. I mean, that just doesn't get to that's not going to take away the dynamics. The war is more powerful than any bickering litigation about human rights. The war has to be over. So I think that has to be the focus, you know. And until these people want to sit down and end it, it's just going to continue. So, whether we like it or not, and whether it offends our human rights or not. So I'm sorry to say that, but that's my opinion. And thanks for watching.